seventh graders. Get my glasses on here so I can see. Uh, I'm going to talk to you today about the Staffordshire Hoard and a little bit about knights as we go further into our lectures on medieval Europe. A couple days from today, we'll put up feudalism and the manor system. But today, we're talking about the Staffordshire Hoard and the importance of the Saxons. As we all have read and know, that the Saxons were Germanic people who the Roman Empire used as mercenaries in Europe long before the empire fell. The Angles and the Jutes came from what is now called Denmark. After the Roman withdrew from England, the Angles and Jutes took over the area and ruled for about 600 years. The treasures that these people and the Saxons left behind were pretty much all military type treasures, a couple other things, but um, it was like they almost put these things together so that somebody would find them years later. There were a couple Bible quotes and crosses that were made of gold that were also found at this time. When we talk about the Staffordshire hoard, it is the largest hoard of Anglo Saxon gold and silver ever found. It consists of over 3,500 different items, people, um, which is unbelievable. And 11 pounds of gold, a bunch of silver, and a bunch of jewelry. Now, when we talk about the worth of this, it was found by this one dude. He actually was a guy that was out with his metal thing. He found it, and according to law, he has to get paid if anybody wants it. And it was worth, I believe, 3.5 million pounds. So you do the math. I don't know. Maybe what's 3.5 million pounds is probably what $5 million American. I don't know, but he has definitely become a rich man. The hoard was most likely deposited or left uh, where it was found in the 7th century and probably manufactured or made or smithed during the 6th and 7th centuries. The guy who found it, he found it in 2009 in this field. He found it in a field. He was out there with a metal detector, probably with his dog, and it was in Hammerwich, which is near Staffordshire, England. What they figured out was that the whole find of this stuff was found in the Anglo-Saxon kingdom of Mercia. The reason this is really important to Anglo-Saxon archaeology and history, um, because they were all like martial in character and contained no objects of female use. There was also no domestic use, no spoons or dishes or plates. You know, the things that you would typically find in a lot of archaeological finds. Um, the average quality of the workmanship was so high and remarkable that these objects were like swords and helmets and fragments of little things such as, you know, the little, as you hold the sword, it's got the sheath on it right here. They're made of gold and stuff. So other than that, other than these military items, they found three religious objects in the hoard. Um, the three objects that the three crosses that they found were all bent. Okay, so they weren't just lying in the ground in their regular shape of a cross, but they had been bent, which I will go into in a little bit. Um, what this showed about the Anglo Saxons was that their goldsmiths were able to alter the surface of gold by a process called depletion gliding. And what it did is it gave the piece a higher appearance of gold content when it really didn't have it. They also believe that some pieces that were buried in the Staffordshire Hoard were actually from Sri Lanka or Afghanistan, um, and dated back to the actual Roman period. The contents included silver and gold sword decorations that had been removed from their weaponry, including 66 gold hilt collars. I guess that's what they're called, collars. Um, and some were also inlays of the sword. Said that the crosses that they found, they said two, but possibly three because they really couldn't tell. When I talked to you a little earlier about saying that they were all bent, they were bent. Um, it's they were intact but bent, and there are three theories on why they may have been bent. The first of these theories is that they were folding it to make it fit into a tight spot, um, like a burial. You know, you put something in the size of a box so that like when you bury something, so it fits and stays tight and secure. That's one theory. The second theory is that it was made, the deposit of the crosses were made done by pagans who had no interest in Christianity, um, or their objects, obviously. And the third view runs in the opposite direction, that they were buried by Christians, and in order to remove the sacred character of this cross and other Christian pieces before burial, they had to bend it. So who knows? But the Staffordshire Hoard was a tremendous find of treasure, as you could say. Make sure you read the section in your book on it. And lastly, I want to talk about the knight, the knight of medieval Europe. We always see him in Sir Lancelot, Sir Gawain, and the Green Knight, right? And we think of these great warriors. But would you want to be a knight? Some say, yeah, I hear you saying, yeah, uh-huh. Until you realize how much weight you have to carry being a knight. They were the knights, they were the fighting military force of the Middle Ages, and their armor was heavy, weighing in a total of 45 to 55 extra pounds, including the helmet, which was about 4 to 8 pounds in itself. Although the weight was distributed nicely throughout the uniform, armor was worn in jousting tournaments was actually heavier than if you were going into battle. So I guess maybe because the speed of the collision. You've all been to medieval times down on Beach Boulevard in Anaheim. Make sure you visit when they reopen. Um, the collision's so much faster and harder and done with a jousting pole that perhaps that's why. Many people believe that a knight's movements were severely restricted by this armor, but actually it's not true. The pieces of the armor were made separately to fit every body part differently, from person to person. They were then linked together in a harness of leather straps so a knight's limbs could move easily. You would almost say that a quarterback wearing a pair of quarterback shoulder pads was more restricted than a knight actually pulling out his sword in battle. Knights were not the only people who wore armor who fought in battle, but many other people fought in the battles, including foot soldiers, crossbowmen, archers, and occasionally a woman. Some of these people fashioned their own armor. Some had friends make it, some the blacksmith of the town. The armor shown in our lesson would have been very expensive and may have been worn by an important knight. Not all armor was valuable, and it cost accordingly to the wealth of the kingdom and the status of the knight itself. So you would imagine that somebody like Sir Lancelot or King Arthur, they would have on the most beautiful of armor that you could meet because they were high status and wealthy. So That's the short lecture today on the Staffordshire Hoard and the Knights. Um, Again, I hope you're all safe and having a wonderful Sunday afternoon. And I look forward to presenting you with the feudal system. Have a great day. God bless you.